This video is brought to you by Dr. Kristen R. Bromley's Guitar Method Book Series and Online Music Academy.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online guitar academy. So delighted to have you joining me. In this quick answer episode, I'm going to talk about the rhythmic values of notes and rests. So the different shapes of a note or a rest represent a different length that note or rest should be held for. And the notes, of course, correspond with different lines and spaces on a staff. Of course, the different lines and spaces of a staff represent the actual pitch that is going to be played. And if you need to know what notes are represented in a treble clef staff or a bass clef staff, you can check out my quick answer videos on those. But here we're going to talk about the length that the note would be held for, and that is determined by the shape of the note, or how long a rest might be held for, which is a period of time where we don't play at all. So silence, so to speak. So up here on the board, I have the common notes and rests that we see. We have a whole note. A whole note is worth 4 counts, so it gets the whole piece of pie, as my elementary music teacher probably used to say. A half note gets 2 counts. It's worth half as much as a whole note. And we're going to distinguish a half note from a whole note by the stem. So an extra line that goes down or up. It's a vertical line. It's going to extend upwards or downwards from the pitch, but either way, it's a half note. And it will extend down here from the left side if it goes below, and it'll extend from the right side if it's going to go above. All the examples here are showing the stem going down, but we could have the stems go up as well. It kind of depends on how high or low the note is positioned on a staff, whether the line will go down or up. If it's positioned towards the bottom of the staff, it usually goes up, and if it's positioned towards the top of the staff, it usually goes down. But if it's an open circle or open oval with a line, then it's a half note, 2 counts. A quarter note, it has that oval filled in, nice and solid, with a stem, down or up, as I mentioned. Quarter note is worth 1 count, so 1/4 the value of a whole note. If we add a flag to our stem, 1 flag will get us an 1/8 note. An 1/8 note is worth half the value of a quarter note, so it's worth 0.5 counts or 1/2 count is a way to look at that. 16th notes have 2 flags, and so we get 1/4 of a beat, or 1/16 of a whole note is the way that sort of goes. Now with the rests, a whole rest is like a little rectangle hanging onto the line above. I had a student once tell me it's a whole gentleman because he's tipping his hat to the ladies. The half rest sits on the line below. So rectangle sitting on the line below. Half a gentleman doesn't tip his hat to the ladies. That's not the way I remembered it as a kid. I used to remember that the whole rest was doing a whole lot more work because it was hanging on to the line above. And the half rest was doing half as much work because it's sitting down on the job. So any old way you want to remember it, that helps. That's how I remembered it, and one of my students told me how they remembered it. The quarter rest worth 1 count is sort of like a squiggly 1. And the published music version looks a little better, but this is sort of what a handwritten version looks like. The 8th rest sort of looks like a Y, just with 1 line, then the 16th has 2. Now with 16th notes and 16th rests, we could continue to cut the note values in half, so a 32nd note would have 3 little lines here or 3 little flags. So that is how those work. Now with 16th notes and 8th notes and 32nd notes and so on, when they're not by themselves, when they're played back to back, they can actually be beamed together in place of having a flag. So for example, here's 2 8th notes beamed together instead of having flags. And then here's 2 16th notes. They're also beamed together with 2 beams instead of 1 in place of having 2 flags. And if we had 32nd notes and had a 3rd flag for 1, then if we had more than 1, we would have them beamed together. And that you could have 4 even together, all beamed together. Or you could have a series of 8th notes, like 1 8th note and 2 16th notes. You're going to see the little beams. And so that's how that works. Now there's one more aspect to this rhythmic game, and that is the use of a dot. So we're going to look at how a dot can alter the length of these notes. Okay, so a dot adds half the value of the regular note to the overall length of the note. So, for example, where we have a whole note and we have a dot sitting next to it, then a whole note is worth 4 counts. Half of that is 2 counts, so 4 plus 2 equals 6. So a dotted whole note or a dotted whole rest with a little dot next to it would be equal 6 counts. So worth 6 counts. So a dotted half note is normally worth 2 counts, or a dotted half rest is worth 2 counts. Half of 2 is 1. 2 plus 1 equals 3, like my math. So a dotted half note is worth 3 counts. Okay, so the dotted quarter note or the dotted quarter rest gets a little bit more tricky here. But a quarter note is worth 1 count. Half of that is half of a count. So 1.5 counts is what our dotted quarter or our dotted quarter rest, dotted quarter note or dotted quarter rest is worth. Eighth note then, we have an eighth note. Half of that would be the value of a 16th note or a quarter of a beat. So 3/4 of a beat is what a dotted eighth note or a dotted eighth rest is worth. Now usually when we have a dotted quarter note or a dotted quarter rest, we're going to see it preceded or followed by an eighth note or an eighth rest. And that's just to fill out that missing half of a beat that we're missing when we have this dotted value of a dotted quarter note or a dotted quarter rest. Similarly with the dotted eighth note, we're going to usually see it preceded or followed by a 16th note, and that helps us fill out the rest of that beat. Since we only got 3/4 of a beat with a dotted eighth note or a dotted eighth rest. Alright, so that wraps us up here. Hope these rhythmic values make sense to you. Hope you're having fun doing whatever you're doing with music, and we hope to catch you again.
If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For more in-depth lessons and to progress through a free guitar course, check out my Guitar 101 series on YouTube and my guitar method books, which all come with access to hours of in-depth video lessons. You can find more information about me and my products at KristenBromley.com. Take care.